Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today we are discussing a lush and lovely red gold Zenith limited edition of 250 pieces. This is the Zenith El Primero Captain Chronograph. The timepiece, 42 millimeters in diameter by 12.5 millimeters thick, 50.3 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Zenith of Laloque, Switzerland is one of the most renowned manufacturers in Switzerland. Dating back to 1865, it was also one of the first to capture all of the elements of watchmaking under a single roof back when établissage was the rule. And it's made many El Primero-based chronographs since 1969. This one, on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, wears well. It is large though, so I'm going to recommend this watch for a wrist of 16 centimeters circumference or larger. You can see from over the top that the lugs are right out to the edge of my wrist. That said, with a sloped bezel, crystal, and low case flank, it will slide underneath a dress cuff, and it is a dress-style chronograph. Taking a look at the strap, you can see we have medium rectangular scale alligator leather in dark brown with a semi-gloss finish. A little bit of bolstering or stuffing to add impressive volume. It's wonderfully soft on the underside thanks to an inlay of rubber, and it features a monotone stitch and sheer cut sides that show you the height or layers of leather. You can see underneath, no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Zenith factory strap. And as with most Zenith factory straps over the last decade, we have a wonderfully silky underlay of rubber to prevent the sweat, moisture, heat, and grit of the wrist from aging out the leather. It also feels great. So best of both worlds, superior life for the strap and superior feel for you. We have a simple rose gold Zenith buckle with the Zenith Star logo on it, and then a case that would later become known as the Zenith Chronomaster case. You can see it's polished in profile. It has bevels on the lug shoulders. The lugs themselves are somewhat squared off and faceted outboard. We have satination on the lug hoods. We have elongated vintage-inspired chronograph pushers. Again, the Zenith Star on the crown. We have a little kerf underneath the crown, so you can more easily dig your thumbnail underneath the crown to withdraw it. And you can see that the bezel is a two-element bezel, so it's got a vertical lip and then a conical profile on top with a generously boxed sapphire. I always say boxed and cambered sapphires are not the cheap ones. Money was spent here. You can also see that the lugs ride up the edge of the bezel on each side. This is a trick often played by watch designers to have larger, fuller lug profiles, but also keep the watch relatively thin by not placing the bezel on top of the lugs, but sinking the bezel somewhat below the hoods of the lug profiles. Part of what makes this limited edition special is that it uses an eggshell grained dial, so it has a lovely off-white cream tone to it and a rough egg or sandpaper-like texturing, just very attractive, like what you'd find on a natural brown egg from a duck or a hen. And it's complemented by rose gold accents. You can see polished chapterings for each of the sub-registers, constant seconds and chronograph minutes. The hours sit without a recess down at 6 o'clock. We've got a date down at 6 o'clock below that, replacing the index at 6. At center, we have a blued seconds hand for the chronograph, and then we have faceted and alternately finished Dauphine-style hands for the hours and minutes. Note that they're polished on their outer facets, but then they're media blasted down their center recesses. And the same is true for the individual indices, which are faceted and polished on their outer faces, but across the top you can see that satinated, matted finish. We also have an applied Zenith Star logo, and as you can see, on the top of the dial, 36,000 vibrations per hour, 10 beats per second, 5 hertz, the famous beat rate associated with the Zenith El Primero movement, which in 1969 became the industry's first automatic, fully integrated high-beat chronograph caliber and one of the first automatic chronograph movements of any kind. It's always been a little bit quirky, though, because the watch sets with the crown in the second position. That's usually the quick set for the date. Traditional El Primeros don't have hacking seconds, and that is the case here. We have a quick set system. Again, you pull the crown out all the way to activate the quick set. Turning it all over. You can see individual edition number here, 39 of 250. This watch features a caliber 400, you know, because it's part of the reference on a Zenith watch. And then 50 meters water resistant, so splash and rain only, because this is a push down, not a screw down crown. And we have the El Primero caliber 400. It was born as the caliber 3019 PHC in 1969. It's evolved over the years, but the important elements have stayed the same. Bidirectional winding, 50 to 52 hour power reserve, 5 Hz beat rate, quick set, 31 pivot joules. And we have a column wheel chronograph. You can see the column wheel in action. It actually sits on top of the barrel, which is an interesting layering of hardware. And then we have a lateral clutch. You can see that we have both polished and blued screws because they perform different functions, alternately fixing and adjusting components. We have a combination of polish and satination on the chronograph components. And then we have engine turning on the bridges, which is an unusual treatment, as that's usually on base plates. Media blasting on the base plate, satination on the wheels and the regulator assembly, and then a partially skeletonized rotor so we can see and appreciate it. And of course it beats away at 10 beats per second, so against the ear the El Primero sounds faster, and to the eye the sweep of the chronograph seconds hand appears smoother. If you've got the reflexes, an El Primero, due to the higher beat rate, is also potentially a more accurate chronograph, as it can resolve 1/10 of a second as opposed to the industry standard 1/8 of a second. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.